Welcome back to another edition of Talking Ball here, and today we are looking at Tre Johnson ahead of the 2025 NBA Draft. Tre Johnson, freshman from Texas, 19 years old. He's a wing. He's 6'6", 190 pounds. I think Tre Johnson is one of the more diversive draft profiles in the 2025 class. First, though, let's talk about what he does well. And there's no way to do that without talking about his shot making. The guy led the SEC in scoring. He was the SEC Freshman of the Year. He is the second highest freshman scoring average in Texas history, only behind a guy named Kevin Durant. He is a phenomenal scorer, and he could do it in a variety of ways. He has step backs. He can do it off the dribble. He can catch and shoot. He can shoot from both three-point line and the mid-range, and occasionally he can get to the rim. I think he's at his best, though, off the ball. And I think that is going to be important, and we'll get to that a little bit more later. He is a guy who, when they run him off pin-down screens, I really love his ability to catch and shoot in one motion. It's not something a lot of guys can do. I think it's a rare skill, and it's something where I think he's really comfortable doing it. He's a guy who, he's got the secondary and tertiary moves offensively. He really is a guy who's got counters. And I think when he's engaged, and he wants to, which is important, he moves well off the ball to hunt his shots. Now, at times, he can also be, a good tertiary playmaker, a guy who can operate a little bit out of the pick and roll and find open teammates, and occasionally he can even direct the offense and tell his teammates where they need to be. Now, some of these skills, he's young and he's going to improve upon. So I think these are a lot of the positives with Tre Johnson. Now, why I said divisive? Because there are certainly negatives with Tre. Let's be real. Defensively, he leaves a lot to be desired. There are times where he is engaged and locked in defensively, but there are far too many where he just enables the opposing player to get open too easily. He doesn't have that effort that you want to see defensively. He is a competitive guy. I think that comes across, but at times it seems like whatever it is, mentally, emotionally, he's not fully checked in to the game, to what he needs to do for his team to win, and that is a concern. Also, his shot selection offensively, it's like he shoots Texas sometimes into a hole, and then he's got to shoot them out of it, and they just didn't have a lot of other options, so he was the guy. Tremont Mark was the other guy for them, but outside of those two, everyone else was kind of within the flow of the offense. They weren't really able to create their own shots, and they didn't really have great playmaking, which kind of forced Tre to do probably more than he would ideally like to. And then I think a stat that kind of shows one of the other concerns with Tre Johnson's game is the two-point percentage. 45% on twos. I wouldn't say it's a red flag, but it's an orange flag. And shout out Kevin O'Connor, who had this stat on the Ringer. He's shot more than twice as many, almost three times as many, pull-up twos and pull-up threes than shots at the rim. And I think that's why his two-point percentage, it illustrates kind of why his two-point percentage is where it is. Because he's a tough shot maker, but he's not a guy who's explosive enough and can get to the rim consistently. And he's a guy who takes a lot of tough shots. So it really impacted his percentages. Now, we talked about the defense. We talked about some of the concerns offensively. I want to say where I think Tre Johnson is going to be at his best at the next level in the NBA. I think Tre Johnson, there's a lot of analysts, a lot of talk about his ability on the ball. I think his best ability is going to be off the ball. I think he's a lights-out shooter. And I think if a team can really get him to embrace that aspect of his game and be willing to be an off-the-ball player and be a guy who runs off of screens, curl action, etc., and you have a coach who understands how to get him those kind of shots, I think you could really have a really good, third, maybe even second offensive option on a team. But I think some of that is hopeful for Tre. I hope that he can embrace that kind of role, because there are concerns with him in terms of, can he impact winning at the next level. Now, statistically, Tre Johnson had a really good season. We talked about that before. 20 points a game, 3 rebounds, about 3 assists, 43% from the field, 40% from 3, 87% from the free throw line. Really good numbers for Tre. 1.8 turnovers, 2.7 assists. Not bad at all. And 0.9 steals, 0.3 blocks. Not a defensive playmaker. And a guy, though, when he is engaged, is a capable defender. Capable, maybe too far. I think he's a decent defender when engaged, but he is a guy as of right now who, the playoffs are currently going on, would be targeted in the playoffs. I think that's pretty clear. I think the Xavier game at the end of the season, you got the full Tre Johnson experience. You got the shot making ability. You got the ability to occasionally set up his teammates. You had him scoring when Texas needed him to score. He was hitting some tough shots, but then at the end of the game, you saw the mental kind of issues with potentially the attitude aspect of his game, where he misses a tough shot, doesn't get back on defense, fouls and one. That was a key bucket swing possession in that game. Towards the end of the game, he won the ball. He didn't get it. He just stood at the half court, near half court basically, and wasn't involved. And that happened a lot towards the end of that game, where when he didn't get the ball, he was just kind of standing around, not involved. Now, some of that's the coaching, some of that's Tre. And then defensively, there were times where he was competing, where he was positionally where he needed to be. But I didn't think also Xavier was really attacking him as a defender. And then there were moments where he would die on screens. He just didn't give defensive effort. And it's just, you got the full package with Tre. So for me, he's not a guy I would take in the top 10. I know that's where he's projected to go. I wouldn't do it. I think if he can get to a team where he can play off the ball, I think that's going to be the best for his long-term success. And I think he's a guy, in terms of winning, I think he could be an on-the-ball guy and get you 20-plus points a game, but you're not going to be a winning team. If he's going to be impacting winning, he's going to be upside 18-point per game kind of guy, maybe even a 20-point per game guy down the line, but gets his shots off the ball. And can he be engaged defensively? That's the key for Tre. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, peace. I gotta do better at asking you guys to like and subscribe earlier.